Habari Africa and the world, you're welcome to today's edition of the news on For You Media Africa. We debut this edition of the news in Sudan, where Sudan's new Prime Minister Kamil Idris has dissolved the caretaker government just a day after taking office in the African nation. Appointed by the Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and sworn in over the weekend, Idris promises neutrality and focus on stability as the country remains locked in conflict between the military and paramilitary rapid support forces. Here is the rest of this latest update. In Sudan, newly appointed Prime Minister Kamil Idris has taken a bold step by dissolving the country's caretaker government. The announcement came late Sunday via the state-run news agency SUNA, though no timeline was provided for the information of a new administration. Idris, a seasoned diplomat for former head of the World Intellectual Property Organization, was appointed by Sudan's Army Chief and de facto head of state Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. His government marks a significant political shift, making him Sudan's first prime minister since the military coup of 2021. Sworn in on Saturday, Idris inherits a nation deeply fractured by more than a year of conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces RSF. The RSF, which has been fighting the army for control, has declared intentions to form a rival government in alliance with other political actors. In his inaugural address on Sunday, Idris pledged neutrality in Sudan's volatile political landscape and promised to prioritize peace, national stability and the country's reconstruction. His leadership will now be closely watched as Sudan remains caught in a deadly power struggle with no clear path to civilian rule in sight. We take you to Somalia, where the nation's president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud on Sunday made public that a consultative forum will be held in Mogadishu, the capital, on June 15, 2025 to enhance peace and advance reforms in the country. The forum will draw near political and civil society leaders, as she tells us, Buka Marambi in this report.
Gabon, the world's second largest manganese producer, announced recently it plans to halt raw manganese exports by 2029. This strategic decision by His Excellency President Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema and his government aims to boost the country's economy by developing its industrial capacity, creating jobs, and increasing domestic value addition. The government recognized the need to diversify and develop its industrial sector to create sustainable economic growth. By processing manganese locally, Gabon aims to generate more revenue and create new employment opportunities. The development of a local processing industry is expected to contribute to economic growth and poverty reduction. The government's ambitious plan is a step toward developing Gabon's industrial sector and reducing its dependence on raw materials exports. The implementation of this plan will require careful planning and investment. However, with a clear vision and strategic approach, Gabon can unlock the full potential of its natural resources and create a more prosperous future for its citizens. The country's decision to end raw manganese exports by 2029 is a significant step towards achieving its economic development goals.
We do apologize for the mix-up, but that was Gabon, where the Central African nation, the world's second largest manganese producer, has announced plans to halt raw manganese exports by 2029 as part of its efforts to boost local industry and drive economic growth in the country. It's worth noting that this country relies heavily on oil, timber and manganese for revenue, and it aims to develop its industrial capability and create more jobs by processing its raw materials domestically. And that was a report done for us by Kute Imaba. Back to Somalia, the nation's president Hassan Sheikh Mohamud on Sunday made public that a consultative forum will be held in the capital Mogadishu on June 15, 2025 to enhance peace and advance reforms in the Horn of African nation. The forum will draw near political as well as civil society leaders.
President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud of Somalia has announced that a consultative forum bringing together political and civil society leaders will be held in the capital Mogadishu on June 15 to help strengthen peace and advance reforms in the country. The initiative disclosed on Sunday will as well draw near politicians, government officials and community leaders to build consensus on key state-building priorities, including national security, democratization and electoral processes, completion of the constitution, national unity and political reconciliation. These developments, which comes following the president's launching of his new Justice and Solidarity Party on May 13 during a meeting with opposition leaders as the country prepares for a shift in its electoral system. It's worth noting that a special committee chaired by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs has been appointed by the federal government to oversee technical arrangements and facilitate preparatory meetings for the forum, as he reaffirmed his dedication to building a united, secure and prosperous Somalia through collaborative and transparent.
We now talk the African continent, where the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, the World Health Organization WHO and the Robert Koch Institute made public the expansion of the successful health security partnership to strengthen disease surveillance on the African continent to 7 countries in Africa. Bukamarambe once again tells us more.
On Friday, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, the World Health Organization, and the Robert Koch Institute, ROKI, announced the expansion of the successful health security partnership to strengthen disease surveillance in Africa, HSPA, to 7 countries on the continent. The initiative, supported by the government of Canada's Weapons Threat Reduction Program and the government of the United Kingdom, is in line with the health security objectives of the G7-led global partnership against the spread of weapons and materials of mass destruction and the signature initiative to mitigate biological threats in Africa. HSPA was launched in 2023 in 6 countries, including the Gambia, Mali, Morocco, Namibia, South Africa and Tunisia. The partnership would expand to other countries, including Rwanda, in its second phase, which runs from 2025 to 2028. According to Africa CDC in a press release, the Health Security Partnership strengthens disease surveillance and epidemic intelligence across the African continent, enabling countries to better detect and respond to health security threats, whether they are natural, accidental, or deliberate. According to the acting WHO Regional Director for Africa, Deputy Executive Director, WHO Health Emergencies Program, the HSPA is drawing near global, regional, and national actors, which supports countries in strengthening collaborative surveillance through mutual exchange and practical actions, as he noted that the organization remains committed to working alongside member states to ensure that these collective efforts are well coordinated. The partnership is supported by countries to strengthen capacities in biorisk management, event and indicator-based surveillance, genomic surveillance and epidemic intelligence, the Continental Health Body explained.
South Africa is expected to host the first ever global small and medium-sized enterprises ministerial meeting in Joburg, Johannesburg, come July 2025. According to a minister in the country, Stella Ndabeni, she says the event is expected to push for greater focus on small businesses across the globe within the G20 bloc and tackle key issues like access to finance as well as global market inclusion. Here is the rest of that story. South Africa will host the first ever global small and medium-sized enterprises ministerial meeting from July 22nd to 24 in Johannesburg, according to Small Business Development Minister Stella Ndabeni. Speaking at a media briefing on Thursday, Ndabeni said the landmark gathering will amplify the voices of small and medium-sized enterprises on the global stage and push for a coordinated and dedicated small and medium-sized enterprises working group within the G20. We are unequivocal at that the G20 needs a sharper, small and medium-sized enterprises focus, she stated, adding that the meeting will serve as a platform to influence global policy discussions on the South African's G20 presidency. Key issues on the agenda include access to capital and improved trade and market opportunities, especially as global value chains are reshaped by rising protectionism. Ndabeni emphasized that practical solutions to strengthen small business ecosystems are equitable and expected to emerge from the summit. Small and medium-sized enterprises make up 90% of businesses worldwide and provide 2/3 of global jobs, she noted. The event would bring together ministers and officials from across the world to share policies and build consensus around a stronger global small business agenda. From the G20 to out of the African continent, ladies and gentlemen, to culminate this edition of the news, we now talk the Russia-Ukraine peace talks, where the second round of talks between Russia and Ukraine have resumed in Istanbul, Turkey, after a 3-year pause. Delegations from both sides are meeting at the Kiragan Palace, aiming to exchange formal proposals and push forward for potential ceasefire amid ongoing tensions. Here is the rest of that story. A fresh round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine is on the way in Istanbul, with delegations from both sides arriving at the historic Kiragan Palace. The discussions began at 10 o'clock GMT and marked the second round of direct negotiations following years of silence. Russia's team, led by President Vladimir Medinsky, remains unchanged from the first round. Ukraine's delegation, however, has grown from 12 to 14 members and continues to be headed by Defense Minister Rustem Umerov. The Russian side is bringing a detailed settlement memorandum outlining a position on ending the conflict, and according to Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Russia is ready to present and clarify its proposals directly to Ukraine. While the exact contents remain undisclosed, a key element of this round is a formal exchange of memoranda. Ukraine's draft memorandum, leaked by the New York Times, reportedly proposes a full ceasefire on land, sea and air, monitored by international observers. In contrast, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated Russia will not negotiate through the media. This latest dialogue follows an earlier meeting that led to a successful 1,000 prisoner swap and a commitment to exploring ceasefire options, reaffirmed after a recent phone call between President Putin and Trump. The world watches closely as hopes for lasting peace are tested once more. Fellow televiewers, we have come to the end of today's edition of the news over for You Media Africa. From the entire team to you, we're wishing you say thank you for watching and to have a beautiful day in company of our numerous programs.